Today I'm going to be sharing two videos with you. They are my most recent singles from my new album, Grey is Ground. The first one is Ocean Love. It was the first single video I released. This one I produced at the beginning of 2020 with my cousin Madeline Bishop, a really brilliant photographer. I had this idea for the video clip. I wanted to create a costume from old scraps of fabric. I sort of set about finding old scraps of fabric in my own home and asking around in my family and friends. My mum and I put together this costume. My mum's very handy crafts person, and she was able to sew these bits of fabric together, and we put together this costume. I guess the reason why I liked that is just this idea that you are returning to something and making it new again. That's what really essentially what Ocean Love is about. This idea that you love something very deeply, but you spend a lot of time trying to pull away from it and trying to discover new things. And this sort of eternal question of, is there better stuff out there? Is the grass greener? Or am I actually quite lucky here? And is this thing that I love actually giving me more than I even realize. So that's Ocean Love. And the next video is Spider. I always wanted to see dance interpret Spider. It's got this rhythmic pulsation that feels so weird, and I just wanted to see bodies move to that. I asked two of my favourite dancers if they would record themselves dancing to Spider in their homes. One was in Melbourne, one was in, I think, the UK at the time. We were all in lockdown, and so it was extremely beautiful to see what they came up with. Lillian Steiner and another beautiful dancer called Melanie Lane. They both interpreted the song quite differently. Melanie's was kind of this very flowing, very beautiful, and Lillian had these kind of more pose-like, almost stilted and rigid and angular. Both of those ideas are a part of this song Spider, which looks at the kind of layers of questioning, of doubt, superficial. It's really a search for the truth, even if the truth is unpleasant. That's what Spider's really about. And I just loved that the dance says all of that without saying it. We filmed the dance with Mel and Lillian together, and we found a beautiful spot just near my house, actually, in Melbourne, down by the creek, under a sort of underpass. Lillian and Mel danced together. They improvised. I didn't really give them any direction. There was one direction at one point in a song to sort of witness each other and move together for a moment. And that was it. Maddie and I were absolutely blown away. I will never forget that moment. It was actually, I realised later, it was the first piece of live performance that I had seen, you know, really since, I guess, the February of 2020. And maybe it was partly to do with that, but also just the power of this amazing movement happening in nature, you know, down by the creek, and having my song brought to life in this whole other way was just really very mind-blowing and beautiful.
Digging
Grey is Ground is my new album, and it began with a song and a band. My very good friends and heroes, Barney McAll and Simon Barker. I wrote the song Grey is Ground for our first play together. I've always loved playing in trios. It was very, very special, this first performance, and I really wanted to make more music for the three of us. About a year later, I guess, we did another performance and I wrote some more music. What I realised over that time was that I was becoming very interested in writing rhythmic seeds, so from rhythmic ideas to begin the composition process. I historically written probably more centred around the harmony, and then the rhythm was a kind of intuitive afterthought. I was still interested in it, but it usually wasn't the beginning of the process for me. That became my focus as I wrote more music for our trio. I also realised lyrically that I was really centering my lyrics around this idea of embracing mystery and vulnerability. That became a really clear theme through all of the songs. That was so interesting to me because, to me, musically, the same kind of thing was happening. I was trying to kind of find ways to explore complexity and make it feel simple or make it feel just slightly mysterious. Lyrically, I was kind of intuitively doing the same thing. So Grey's Ground, yes, is about embracing mystery, kind of accepting this kind of idea of vulnerability, of not knowing answers, of not knowing who you are or how to be in a situation. Over this whole time of making this album, I had two beautiful children. When I wrote that first piece, Grey is Ground, I was pregnant with my first son. Started recording when my son was very little, and I was recording again when I was pregnant with my daughter. It's been really sort of beautiful to kind of be exploring this idea of mystery and vulnerability at the same time as becoming a parent, because parenting is sort of nothing but mystery and vulnerability. You really don't know what's going to happen day to day. It's very unpredictable. If you are open to that mystery, you catch all of these beautiful unexpected moments. So I've really learned a lot about myself and about the idea of surrendering to that mystery through parenting. So I guess there are three themes, that are interwoven in the making of this album. You know, becoming a mother, the idea of exploring mystery and vulnerability, and this idea of working with these two beautiful musicians, centering our ideas around rhythm. And the album was recorded over about a 4-year period. We started recording in a studio, all three of us, and we began by improvising over sections of the tune. It was really important to me that even though these songs, I guess, had a little bit of a pop sensibility, that I really wanted our improvising sensibilities to be dominant feeling. You know, I wanted that to remain a very, very strong feeling in the music, that improvisation was at its centre. And so we started with improvisation, and we definitely retained the energy of playing together in that room that day. And we retained a lot of the very special moments that happened. Over the next sort of 3 years, Barney and I chipped away at working on each song, adding parts, pulling things apart, putting them back together. We really experimented with it. Barney's a fantastic person to work with in the studio. The sky's the limit, you know. He's really throw paint against the wall, try things out, go for an idea. There's no such thing as kind of playing it safe. And I love working with Barney because, you know, he brings things out of you and out of the room that you didn't think were possible. You know, it just opens up this kind of creative pathway So we had a fantastic time, and because of our time limitations, we would just work a little bit at a time. Some days it felt frustrating because I just wanted to stay in that studio forever and keep going. Ultimately, it was a really lovely way of doing it. And so it's kind of like this beautiful series of, it's like a journal. It's a series of snapshots of the past 4 years, and I'll really treasure that. As we were putting the album together, we decided to use 2 special guests. Gian Slater, who's one of my favourite trumpet players in the world, to play on my song Patient Fight. Absolutely thrilling to hear what he came up with, and really adds a dimension to the album. It takes you out of the sound space and into something else. My partner Chris came towards the end, I guess the end stages of the process. We were trying to find a missing link in a couple of songs where we felt we wanted more of a pop aesthetic, I guess. And he added these drum machine parts. They were the missing piece, and they made them completely Lockean. Throughout the process, we worked with my favourite engineer, Lachlan Carrick. He did all the mixing and mastering. And Lockie is, he doesn't just mix and master. He really gets inside the music, and he really gives it the best he can. He helps clarify the arrangements. He's a very essential part of not just getting the mixing and mastering, but making the music the best it can be. So it was really fantastic to work with all of those people over this album, and I'm really so excited that it's finally out in the world. For me, what's always excited me is the voice being used in unusual ways. It's excited me in my own work, and it's excited me whenever I hear it, and I'm always sort of searching for it. So, the voice kind of out of the context of the wordless singing, vocal improvisation, vocal ensembles, choral music that sort of challenges some preconceptions about what the voice can do. I'm really very excited by that world, because I think even though there are amazing people out there and in our history that have treated the voice this way, there's so much room for more. And so I'm just excited to discover some of that myself and to hear it in other singers. And the other thing that excites me is dancing. I am blown away every time I work with dancers, and I've been really lucky to work with dancers in a few different kinds of settings and choreographers, and I'm fascinated by it. I'm not a dancer myself, really. I love dancing, but I really appreciate it as an art form. It really moves me, and I'm very excited by dance and what's possible in that space. It's a hard question. I'm going to say Mark Rothko, my favourite painter, Joni Mitchell, my favourite singer-songwriter, and Arvo Pärt, probably one of my favourite composers. And I just think they all have an emotional intelligence that is rare, and I'm not really sure I could even ask them. I understand it through their work, and I'm not really sure I would have a question. I would sit in silence and feel like I was melting into a puddle. I think music is the way that I see the world, and music is the way that I feel the world and that I understand myself. Music to me is my therapy, it's my meditation, it's my sort of soul searching, it's my inner critic, it's everything. And I feel most at home when I play music. I also feel very blessed to be able to do something that creates and provokes a feeling in somebody else. I think that's a very powerful thing, to be able to do something that addresses feelings and I guess, encompasses a lot of feelings within it. Yeah. Lots of kids stuff, lots of parenting stuff, and teaching. I teach a lot, and so I've always got questions about teaching. I'm always thinking about ways to engage my students. I'm always having, little frustrations with how to communicate something, or I'm inspired by something my students are doing. And but lots of kid stuff, lots of parenting stuff. Meeting a sort of new group of people, and I guess, the scene that you're a part of really makes a very big difference to your career and your development. And so for me, when I moved to Melbourne from Canberra in Australia, and I began studying music at the Victorian College of the Arts, I met a whole lot of new students and young musicians that were incredibly inspiring, and also absolutely wonderful teachers that were wonderful and really opened up so many things for me and so many ideas. I had some really, really special teachers that I guess could see something in me that was different, and that really tried to nurture that and give me recordings that they thought I might be interested in, and really see what I was doing. So I was very thankful for that. I think that was a really pivotal moment for me. And the next place that I think and scene that kind of changed my career was going to New York for the first time, meeting a whole host of incredible musicians and singers, particularly one of my greatest heroes and mentor, Theo Bleckman. How amazing to meet one of your heroes. And, I subsequently visited New York many more times. And even though I didn't live there, I felt that I was in some way a part of that scene. And it opened a lot of doors for me. It inspired me to work towards certain things musically, and it definitely gave me some opportunities to work with people that I otherwise wouldn't have. I think I would tell myself to have more confidence in what I'm doing. I think I've always had a self-belief in what I'm doing, but that hasn't always conveyed to a confidence in the way that I present myself in my field. It's also partly my personality. I'm quite shy, and so I think I would say go for it. Just go for it. Don't hold back. Don't wait for somebody to give you an opportunity. Just go and do it. I think I've done that in these 10 years, but I think I do it with a lot of carefulness and very not a lot of straight up confidence. So I would tell myself 10 years ago, work on your confidence. I wasn't super into cartoons on TV, but I loved all the Disney movies. I just adored all of those. So not one necessarily in particular, but I really, really did love those Disney movies. Loved the music, all the songs. Right. So how do you do what you do from an idea to a performance? So it depends what the idea is. Is it a composition? Is it a new piece of music? Is it an improvisational idea? Is it an ensemble? Is it a bigger kind of project? To me, if it's a composition and a new project, then I spend a bit of time working on the theme, and it's usually something that's been fascinating me. I usually work out what that is when I'm doing this process. So it's kind of like a way of jumping into my mind and sort of working out you know, a kind of central idea that's been kicking around in my mind. And through this process of trying to work out a theme, I usually find, oh yeah, that has been really bothering me lately, or that's something I'm so interested in. So I spend a bit of time doing that, and then I plan the piece of music. I think about what I want it to do, maybe some musical ideas I want to explore. I think about form. I think about the combination of people and instruments and things that I want to include, and bit by bit through that planning, it sort of comes together. I find that whole process, all stages of that process, to be very enjoyable. I love the planning part. I like the coming up with the music part, crafting the music, rehearsing, and then putting it together for a performance. It's a privilege to be able to do that and have I guess the time and space to be able to do that and go through that process. And I'm very thankful that I've done that quite a few times now. So yeah, I think that I just love music. I love teaching music. I have my bad teaching days, but I still love it. I love playing music, playing different music. Sure, there's certain situations that are unpleasant. It might be certain musicians that I've played with that I may not want to play with again, or it might be, although that is actually very rare, it may be a particular venue or a particular festival or something that's been unpleasant. It might be a piece of music that's not my cup of tea, but I think I don't really think I've ever exited a situation and thought, you know, I don't enjoy this as a whole picture. And the act of making music, I always enjoy. I always enjoy singing. Opening my mouth and making sound is it's my favourite thing. So in whatever way I can do that, I feel quite happy. Monkeys. I love monkeys. And I love watching them. They're so similar to us, and I find that so fascinating and so cute and just fun. Monkeys.